What kind of person is Shamima Begum? The ISIS bride who recently lost her appeal to return to the UK has divided public opinion over the past few years. Andrew Drury is into extreme tourism and has visited some of the most dangerous parts of the world. Just how dangerous does he think Begum is? Andrew joins me now. Andy, thanks for joining Spectator TV. You've written for the magazine this week about the friendship you say that you've built up with Shamima Begum. How did this come about?
I think friendship was past tense now, because my latest stuff has probably upset her quite a bit. It came about, I was filming a documentary called Danger Zone, which followed me in my strange life of holidays in danger zones. So as a day off from filming, we were close to the road camp where Shamima's kept. And I thought, because there was a lot of journalists had been thrown out, and so she said no to everybody. So I thought it was a bit of a challenge. So I wanted to go and see her. And not only was it a good story, the production company weren't interested in her at all. So went into the camp.
But you personally wanted to meet her?
Yeah, of course, she's a big story at home. I can remember the pictures of seeing her come through the airport with her other two friends. And yeah, of course, it was a big story. So I went into the camp expecting to get told to go away, but I had a pre-plan. I was in a Netflix documentary where I was in an orphanage, and it was quite a tear-jerking scene. So I thought it might be a good idea to show that and show my softer side. I showed her it. She kind of got brought into it. I think she could realise I wasn't one of these hardline newspaper journalists. So she saw me as somebody who was a bit different than she'd seen before, and she accepted me. And the interview which I had with her wasn't the gen about the heads in the bins, the suicide vest. It was generally about her, about what she used to do in her life when she was younger, what was her interest, and she bought into it, and then she liked me. And the bit I still regret now, as I went to leave her, I said, "Can I shake your hand?" I didn't want to offend her because she was a Muslim. I offered my hand. She said, "Can I have a hug?" She gave me a hug and she started to cry. I've never seen emotion before. I don't know now whether that was orchestrated by herself as it went along, but that made some sort of bond. I got a daughter her age, so I didn't see her at that point as a terrorist. I saw her as a victim. In my mind, she was groomed, and at that point, and kind of that was about it. I never expected to ever see her again, and I left. But how wrong I was.
I want to go into that full story, but first I think a lot of viewers will be wondering what exactly an extreme holiday is, because this was certainly not the first or last time you went on one. What does that entail?
Entails being pretty stupid and going places where everybody advises you not to go. The government advised you not to go, though I generally went there.
Right.
So it's taken me to Chechnya, it's taken me Ku Klux Klan, frontline battle in Kirkuk. I've been taken hostage, only for a day, and they brought me a kebab.
Well, that makes it okay.
And then rescuing a bear recently in war-torn Ukraine. So that's not your general holiday.
And are you an adrenaline junkie? Is that what you're seeking?
It was until the media took over, yeah. I liked the adrenaline, liked the buzz, and I also like to tell people's story. When you come back, I always enjoyed relaying somebody's story through myself. Then I had the medium of newspapers to do that. And I just enjoy that.
Well, this extreme holiday took you to Shamima, and you visited her many times at the refugee camp afterwards. What is it like in this prison camp? What are the conditions like?
Compared to a refugee camp, which I've been through in Raqqa before, it's not bad. I don't think it's a concrete in the middle of a concrete bases with tents, with kind of UN plastic sheeting made into a tent form. Shamima's got a TV in her room. She's got a fan of air conditioning. I don't know where she's getting the money, and she's quite well dressed. But it's a dusty, dirty place. They've got a shopping area where they can go and buy her clothes and baby, because there's a lot of children in there as well, so baby foods. So they have money. I don't know how they earn it, because she never told me. At the prison camp, it's split into two. So you've got the real extreme at the top end of the camp, which they don't think they can be de-radicalised. They're up there because they don't really mix with the more Western girls, which are on the other side, which is supposed to be a little bit easier.
And you said at the start of our interview that you think you were wrong in terms of your first impression of Shamima. What changed during your visits?
Well, on my second visit, I knew that she could have a phone call home. She was entitled to one phone call 1 week. And I thought that'd be from the office. There's an administration office in there, but she said they got mobile phones. in the camp. So I gave her my mobile number expecting a phone call, but I got text messages regular. And one of those text messages changed everything about her. I mean, I had a brother died of cancer young, so I always kept that with me and it never left me. And when I was there on my second visit, in her purse she has these 2 pictures, the third child, her children. The oldest child, I think, was about 8 months when it died, had chocolate around his face, and it was like a happy scene of cake making. And I was quite upset by it because a child, obviously an innocent child, had died. And it was 8 months old. So I sent a message to her, a text message, and said, look, I was really sad when I saw that photograph of your little one. And her response shocked me. She said, oh, don't worry, I'm over that part of my life. It doesn't make me sad anymore. And that, I still can't understand. I'd say, living with death myself of a young child, I just couldn't fathom how she could be that way and how it seems so cold.
It seems extremely cold. I can't fathom it either. That said, we have not grown up in an ISIS community. We haven't had the experiences she had. Do you think perhaps this was her way of deflecting what is overwhelming and inconsolable pain?
People always mention the trauma of what she went through. According to her in a documentary, never went for anybody. She was stuck in a room for 7 months, didn't do anything, stayed in and had no trauma. It was only during the bombing at the end when Baghouz actually got taken out by the Western Alliance that she actually had any trauma, according to her. So I know I don't agree with that. I still think you'd hold the emotions. I mean, if you were in a traumatic situation, your children got killed, I don't agree with that at all.
Do you still see her as a victim on any level?
Trafficking or a victim of grooming. I asked her, and she, ironically, I watched the documentary again, stopped trying to refer back to that, but she said that she had trouble fitting in society. She racially, she had racist abuse, and racially she found difficult to fit into her community. Well, she lived in a Bangladeshi community, so that would have been untrue. And the question about racism, I asked her about that. And she said she'd only had one small racist comment when she was in infant school. So I was quite shocked. So I don't think she was groomed. And then we've seen a video, and that video shown of the park. Everybody knows about the ISIS video, propaganda video, where you see this beautiful scene, this park, and they've got a Catherine wheel, bumper cars, and they're walking around with candy floss. Now, if that was the one video that she watched, the grooming video, it's not true.
I want to talk about this grooming point a bit more because I think one of the most startling points of your article for The Spectator is you say, I spent with the time you spent with her, quote, I also went from thinking that she had been groomed to thinking she was trying to groom me.
Yeah.
How do you understand the definition of grooming in that scenario?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's changing somebody's beliefs and or persuasion. And I think she was doing that with me. I think she was trying to work me. I suppose, I mean, her side would be worked by ISIS to change her opinion, to say that she was going to go to a utopic situation. I suppose grooming with me was condition me to her belief, condition me towards how she was.
I think critics, however, would say that somebody in your position with a family, stability, the ability to travel, is not a hot contender to be groomed, whereas she, despite the horrible things that she owns up to doing and needs to be accountable for, was ultimately a child and under UK law would have been a victim of at least rape.
I think that's 15-year-olds always been used so many times. You could say that about a child that kills. I mean, is everybody innocent at the age of 15? I don't think so. She could still have the thoughts. I think she went on her own free will. I don't think she was coaxed. Another girl called, because most people think there was only 3 girls, there was 4. The girl that went before, Shamima went before, and I think it was just a conversation. I don't think she did realise how extreme it would be, I would say that for sure, but she still had an anti-British, anti-West feeling.
Do you think perhaps she saw you as somebody who could help her get back to the UK, and when she realised that you couldn't or wouldn't, that's when her attitude towards you changed?
No, her attitude changed toward me when I wrote a newspaper article in the paper that she didn't like.
Right.
So I wrote an article, came back and said that she could face trial and do 20 years in prison. The newspaper article, I won't say the newspaper unless you want me to, stated that she could be hung. I never said that. So once again, the paper wrote the article wrong. and which I got them to apologise for, and they apologised to the SDF. But however, it was wrong. And I said to Shamima, sorry, the article was wrong, it wasn't what I wrote, and I sent her the actual transcript of the right article. But she come back and said, it doesn't matter about the article, don't care what article it was, it's what paper you put it in. My response to her goes, well, you sold your country out, you worry about where I sold a newspaper article. And that was the last I heard of her.
You say in the piece that you, quote, never had an agenda when you met Shamima.
No.
You did help other journalists with their interviews.
Yeah, I did.
To interview Shamima and other ISIS brides. Were you paid for the support that you gave those journalists? I haven't
received a penny from any work I've done for Shamima at all.
But were you paid for helping other journalists get in touch with other ISIS brides when you were in the area?
No, I haven't been paid any money at all for anything I've done within that prison camp.
Do you think her perception of you might have also changed when she saw you were working with other journalists?
No, she actually liked it. I mean, the Good Morning Britain live interview, she, apart from having a tantrum halfway through it, she seemed to like it. And then I took others after that and she liked that. It was simply because I think she had a documentary made about her, and I think she might have been manipulated by that journalist not to speak to anybody else.
Shamima has just lost her appeal to return to the UK.
Yeah.
What do you make of that decision? Have the courts made the right call?
No, I don't. I don't think you should be, if you were born in this country, I don't think you should be able to take somebody's citizenship away from them. I don't think you can. You're British, you're born British, it doesn't matter what generation of British your parents are, you're born in this country, and I don't think it's right. I think she should have come back, face trial here for her crimes. I think we have enough evidence, or they have enough evidence, and I think that's what should happen. She should come here and serve prison sentence here. Feeling about her, because I know her so well, last time she had an appeal turned down in the High Court, she was suicidal.
You were there at the time, weren't you, with her?
I spoke to her within hours or within days of that being turned down, and she told me how suicidal she felt and how flat she felt. And as a human being, see, it's a mixed emotions, because when you actually, I don't hate her, but I just don't like what she stood for, and I don't like the way that she's gone. But however, as a person, I don't want someone in the camp, a young girl, to be sitting worried about, you know, or contemplating committing suicide, because I feel terribly guilty if I was part of anything to do with that.
Does Shamima have any more options in trying to come to the UK?
Her options are, well, she's got the Court of Human Rights. Solicitors said they're going to appeal, they can appeal against the SIAC court's decision, but ultimately, even if she gets a citizenship some way back, then I would suggest that they'll probably try her in Syria. I don't think the government are allowed to come here, because if you can imagine a government that repatriates her, it'd be a real uncomfortable situation. There's such a, I think, such a adverse feeling towards Shamima. I don't think it would be a good thing for any government to bring her back. So I think it's a possibility she could go to trial in Syria for about 20 years. I think she could get that.
Andy, thanks for joining me.